Today, I'm going to show you the 5 critical moments in the first round of one of the biggest series of bike races in the UK and what you can learn from them. It's the 2022 Tour Series. There are 3 riders I really want you to pay attention to in this race. First, the National Criterium Champion Jo Tindley, her teammate Lucy Ellmore, and Sophie Lewis of CAMS-Basso. Bear in mind, the race profile is as flat as they come, with only 5 meters of elevation per lap. So any real difference is going to be made in pure power, acceleration, and cornering ability. The first clip I want to show you really highlights the importance of positioning on the neutral lap before the race has even really started. You've got Jo Tindley in the middle, and they are right on the wheel of the moto. And have you ever thought just how much easier it is for the riders on the front when it's worth using a little more energy to hold your position? Because look at this. It's a pinch point from a big road into a small road, and only the front 3 or 4 riders get through that unscathed. Everyone else has to slow down and then accelerate back up to speed. And you'll see that again and again on the neutral lap as Jo Tindley and Sophie Lewis spend a little bit of energy to gain a lot, with everyone else having to slow down and accelerate behind them. Now that's something you will see right away as Jo Tindley accelerates on the first lap. The flag has dropped and she knows that she wants to be on the front going into that first corner. Something that's worth bearing in mind with Jo is she is one of the best bike handlers in the women's peloton. Look at this. She's not really attacked into that corner. She's just gone around it faster than everyone else, and she already has 3 or 4 bike lengths on the rest of the field. And in fact, it's only Sophie Lewis that really sees the danger of this move and accelerates to get on it. Now, I want you to think, why did those other riders let that gap go? Because this is a pivotal moment. The gap, like, you can barely call this a breakaway at this point, but it's really important who's on the front here. As they come through and I pause it, you can see there's another CAMS-Basso rider in the red and the yellow, and another Pro-Noctis rider in the red, teammates of Jo and Sophie. So they're going to just sit up, let a few more meters go, and by the time someone else has realized it's a little bit too late, and that gap is going out, and it's going to be a lot more difficult to chase that down. Now, later on in the race, this is the MVP move. Lucy Ellmore comes through like an absolute rocket, a teammate of Jo Tindley, and she has gone solo across a 30-second gap to give Pro-Noctis and Jo Tindley a numerical advantage in this breakaway. Jo Tindley looks back and she's like, oh, hey there. Flick of the wrist, hop on my wheel, we're going for a ride. Sophie Lewis realizes this and she's like, oh, okay. I see what's happening now. She's going to sit on the back and let them just pull out a real big gap. But does it take away too much from her? Because this next clip is really important and really telling. Lucy's just finished. I just want to pause it here. Lucy has just finished her move. Her turn. And you can see Jo Tindley is about to make a move. And as she goes around, Sophie can respond, but Lucy Ellmore really struggles. And what this move does is actually drops Jo's teammate Lucy. And Jo is very lucky that Sophie Lewis doesn't come round and bury the hatchet and really pull away from Lucy Ellmore. Instead, Lucy Ellmore, once again MVP, drags them back, drags herself back up to the 2 leaders. So we've got Pro-Noctis on the front. Sophie Lewis is not feeling obliged to work, but she's pushing her way around this breakaway, and that is not what you'd expect to see when a team has numerical advantage. You would expect to see them pushing around the rider that's on their own, dictating what's happening, maybe leveraging that with a couple of attacks. But instead, they're doing a little bit too much work. They repeatedly come around her and tow Sophie Lewis. You can see here, this is a really good moment, but Lucy just is a little bit too close, makes it a little bit too easy for Sophie Lewis to come round. She could put her against the barriers there and just make it very difficult for her to come round. But instead, Jo Tindley's putting on the pressure and she's hurting Lucy Ellmore as well. Going into the final lap, Sophie Lewis is on the front, and for once, we might be thinking, this is good. This is where Pro-Noctis want to be. Sophie Lewis is on the front, but Jo Tindley comes around. I'm not entirely sure why she does this. I can understand her wanting to maybe dictate what's happening in the sprint. But really important to note, if Lucy Ellmore is cooked and she can't put in a big attack, she should be leading the lap, the final lap. If you're not going to make Sophie Lewis, the lone rider, work, put your fatigued rider on the front to work for the team leader. And we see coming around here into the final sprint, Jo Tindley leads it out. Sophie Lewis has enough energy to come around her and take the win. Put Sophie Lewis in third wheel, and it would have made her a very difficult situation and unlikely that she could come around Jo Tindley. Instead, as it was, Sophie Lewis managed to overcome a numerical disadvantage and take the win when really the odds were stacked against her. That was round 1 of the Tour Series. Pro-Noctis did take the team prize on the night, but I'm sure they would have liked to win the race as well. So how do you think they could have won? What do you think of Tindley and Ellmore's tactics here? Did they make a mistake by not forcing Sophie Lewis to work harder? Let me know what you think in the comments and subscribe for future analysis of the British pro cycling scene. Thank you very much and see you next time.